Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a coaching, consulting, or an info product company in the online space, and you're doing anywhere from 10 to 100K in cash collected per month, then this might be one of the most valuable videos to watch this year. Now, bookmark it, watch it through the end. If your dopamine brain cannot take it, then you probably won't derive all the benefits from the business that you could be seeing because you're most likely leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by not just fixing these systems alone. I'll be diving into the leaks that you might be seeing in your marketing, but specifically in your sales systems, the team that you're building, the culture that you're building, and taking a look at all the other quick things that you could be implementing to increase show rate, increase show close rate, and most importantly, see an increase in impact for your clients, for the people that you reach, and the money that you will be making. So let's get into it. We'll be showing you all of these things that I have here, and I'm excited to see what you'll be able to accomplish by the time you end this video. So my name's Coy. I've been in the industry enough to scale an offer from 10K to over 100K in just 3 months. And I've helped many different creators, just like such as Josh Snow, Kenzo Sobrai, and Jaden Bloom, in helping their businesses scale as well. Quick story on me is background. I was a systems engineering student at Ohio State University, and just sitting in that classroom, I realized that there was more. So I offered and hopped into the online business space where I found myself starting an agency, such as many people do, right? And the problem with that is there was a lot of skills to focus on at one time. As a business owners, there's many levers to pull, many sectors to focus on, and you're very split up. So I really focused in my first year on mastering sales, going into sales management, consulting, and everything else in that stage so that I knew exactly how to optimize the sales for a company. Since then, I've grown into many different things, but for this video alone, I really want to nail in how to actually optimize because I found that the one lever that they pulled that increased the most revenue in their company was sales. So, how to actually do that? One of my core beliefs into going into this was that founders should never actually be stuck doing sales forever, right? Many people have a sales team of 1 to 2. If not, then their founder is taking many of those calls. And as a founder, your main focus should be about attracting the right audience, attracting the right leads, marketing the right way, and creating the content that will build your authority, build your trust, and bring people to you. So, early mistakes I saw is that people just spread themselves too thin, just like I did when I started my agency. So, what I flipped the switch was noticing that, hey, you don't need to focus on all of these things at once. Let's focus on maybe two that will really drive the needle in what you're good at. So, what I found myself good at was systems, operations, and sales. And when I really dove into that, I found that many info product companies were missing a lot of these factors. So, as you can see, just an overview, as you scroll up setups, you can see that founders post content in their personal brand, right? They typically have the leads funneled into a newsletter, opt-ins, and then the funnel drives the CTA where they book a call, right? Looks legit, and you're probably thinking like, damn, from the outside, everything looks like it's dialed in. This guy must like have it figured out. But I promise you one thing that these people are so lost when it comes to running the mechanics of this business model of info products. And this is a different industry than most others, especially it's growing very fast and you need to figure out how to tackle it the right way in 2025. Not the old way 5 years or 10 years ago, because those are outdated. But what are the real systems now that actually drive the trust? Because this economy now, even if people are having more opportunities, they have more eyes on the online space. Their trust also has been decreased, being burned in the past, or just seeing too many advertisements and being skeptical and having their own limiting beliefs about it. So, actually, how do you target these people and make sure that they convert into paying clients, right? So, most info products are actually running on leaky systems. and their front end looks polished, but their back end is in total chaos. So they're losing thousands monthly just through sales process and having zero accountability in it. Setters and closers, their team is untrained and misaligned, right? Their KPIs are guesswork. You're not tracking these properly, having a system that is tracking and optimizing it according to data, statistics, and numbers. So is what's happening currently in this day and age. But I promise you, these people, when they fix a few things, they can take their info product from anywhere from 30, 50K, anywhere in the middle stages to anywhere from 100, 200 to a million plus just by fixing these things alone. You want to build a strong foundation. This is exactly what I'm going to show you in the next hour. So if you can take out your notepad, anything where you can take notes on a piece of paper or anywhere on a notion that you have, then make sure that you take a few things from this, if not all, because I guarantee you that actually just implementing these in your offer will increase your revenue 2x, 3x, even more. So let's kind of dive into that. You've seen the people I've helped grow. You can see the data, statistics, everything in terms of that. Monthly revenue when I sorted out was 30K, 10K cash collected. We obviously just look at this alone and scaled it to 99K from September to November. So actually just 2 months. But you can see some of the Slack messages to see some proof and people I've worked with in the past. And I've also gotten consulted like with people like Tanner, who has done over $100 million in sales. But enough about me. Let's kind of dive into exactly how to fix these systems processes to see an increase in your company and become a proper business owner. So this starts off by fixing the offer leaks. So let's define what leaks are. Leaks are the parts of the funnel overall where you are poorly capturing and converting leads into becoming buyers, right? This is what we want, obviously. So this can happen in both marketing and the sales level. I'll dive into actually both of those on this video so that you can have a comprehensive overview of what this looks like for info product structures. But this is probably what your funnel looks like. And most people, if that, very few have no leaks at all. But many have leaks that are gushing out a ton of revenue for them. So this can either be in their leads, how you're nurturing them, right? Big opportunity that's missed here. Opportunities, what lead things are you optimizing for, right? Are you sending them proper nurture processes, VSLs, lead magnets, and things that they can gain value along the way up till sales? And this part is what a lot of people are missing, which is a proper sales team that is tracking statistics and have a proper scale level and is led properly, right? You might have one or two closers that are misaligned or one or two closers that are misaligned. Even one of these will set your system off and gush out a ton of cash from what you could potentially be earning. So let's kind of dive into what these leaks look like in marketing. Obviously, you can see poor profile optimization, things like message and marketing fit, which is poor. They're not targeting and have poor offer structure, not using quality lead magnets like I mentioned, not automating the sending process. So it's taking a lot more time from things that you should actually be focusing on. So poor landing page optimization, some of that stuff you can read into. But the main thing that we can actually fix without actually spending an extra dollar on ads is through sales. And this is where a lot of people leak the most revenue. So let's dive into that. What we'll be taking a look at is if you have a poor setting process, if you have inconsistent qualifications, right? If you don't have a pre-call nurture sequence, right? Assets, testimonials, authority, and knowledge building process which can guide your leads all the way up to a close. This is a big problem. So, on top of that, little to no tracking performance metrics, right? No sales call strategy, weak closers, like I mentioned, and poor frameworks that you offer them, poor SOPs, no follow-up procedures, CRM pipeline is not managed correctly, and you're not automating what should be automating, right? All these things are taking away energy, time, and especially money from what you could be doing. So let's actually focus on increasing that bottom line first off, plugging these leaks, and what that'll look like for your company overall. Because at the end of this, my goal is to take you from going from anywhere from stage one to stage two, where you're at that 0 to 30K mark, into stage three. And then once you're there into stage 4, where you're a business owner doing 100K months and above that, right? What that'll look like. Going into that, we'll kind of dive into first the overall scaling funnel into what you'll be taking a look at into going into things. So let's kind of go into what this looks like. Obviously, you have top of funnel, cold ads, which are running into it, right? You might have different strategies for this YouTube ads, short form. These are all getting funneled into engagement where they're going into followers. You want to make sure you have some type of editor so you're not spending too much time on this. But at the same time, you're optimizing this and making sure that it's quality because these are going to determine the quality of your leads. Now, how do you actually, no matter what quality, you can actually convert these into buying clients, right? So retargeting ads, BSL, content, these are all funneled into a CTA and these should be nurtured properly in order to get a efficient CTA percentage. We'll dive into the efficiency numbers, what you should be actually aiming for. But first, let's kind of take a look at what this will look like. So once you get down into the middle funnel, you'll go into the bottom of the funnel. And this is more of or not of the sales pipeline that you're looking at. Everything from here to here is what we're going to be diving into in depth. This where you see nurture process, calls, and the offer, making sure those are all dialed in. You're getting the metrics that you need to know, and all of those are optimized so that you're efficiently running at the highest capacity that you can. So going into this marketing funnel, we can dive into that really quick. You want to make sure that you're having an optimized profile first, because if you don't have all of these things that I'm showing you here, then the sales funnel is gonna operate at a less efficient because you can remember everything right here. We're this is the funnel process, right? If your top of funnel right here is looking very narrow or very thin, then you're obviously gonna have a thinner conversion from right here. So let's go into that. Make sure that these are optimized first. We won't dive into it too much, but everybody should have this at least nailed into some degree, right? Optimized profile, engagement strategy, ads and media. You want to be tracking all of this. The click-through rate, the impressions, the conversions. So all of these stuff should be tracked properly, but making sure that you have these top of funnel things is vital. So social media platforms, how you get into that through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Once you go through that, they're funneled into either outreach, content, newsletter opt-ins, or landing pages. And a lot of people just pick one of these. And these are touch points. If you ever heard of the 7-11-4 rule, you want to make sure that you follow it, right? 4 touch points minimum. So follow all 4 of these to make sure that you're running at the most efficient level possible. You want to make sure that these are optimized as well. And automations are set up properly so that when you go into a strategy, you can funnel these all efficiently down into content types, strategy, everything down into a call that you see here. Now, let's dive into the main meat of this where you're going to get the most value in terms of actually implementing the sales systems that I tell you about. And if you can figure out any leaks that you're seeing that you are missing currently in your current offer, then this will already provide you a lot of value. So I'm excited to dive into this. We can actually see from here that there's a lot of details to kind of cover, but let's kind of start out with where we ended, which is the marketing funnel. Everything should be funneled into the traffic, right? Where you see here, it's going into a main VSL slash the landing page. And this is something that looks like for one of my clients here. And you should also make a quality lead magnet as well. So after this, these are funneled into an application where you can really figure out exactly where your lead stands in the sales cycle. Now, this is very important to make sure that your application is optimized because asking the right questions, figuring out the right details to segment your leads into buckets from there is going to be a very big time saver and a big money maker as well because you can know where to focus your energy, right? So let's kind of go into the applications. You should be asking about how much they're making, right? Their background knowledge about everything that you're doing, where they're even coming from, and some of the things such as, if they can invest, what type of job they do, how much they're earning, things like that. Those are pretty generalized, and those are a few questions that I usually always ask. And those are some of the things that you should be doing as well. So application, that should be dialed in, making sure that once those are gone into, then you can go into the contact info collection. Now, a lot of people skip out this process where you see contact info collection and nurture process and usually just skip from main VSL to the CTA. And obviously, if we're playing an efficiency game here, which is what business is, then you want to make sure that you're not taking them right to the end. So let's see where we can optimize the process by going step by step, making sure that these leads are nurtured the proper way to make sure that your CTA is seeing the highest conversion. Now, everything from here, right? Contact information collection, we go into a CRM which should be automatically organized and systematized, and GHL, Close.io, these are the top ones that I recommend. But also, you should make sure that the pipeline is set up. So this is what a setup pipeline organized should be split up into: leads, booked call, confirmed, no shows, won, loss, follow up. Everybody's pipeline is a little bit different. You can actually add stages to this and automate it according to what process they're in. So this will be very useful in terms of automating the nurture sequence, follow-up sequences, everything, etc. that we'll be going into. But let's make sure that these leads are segmented the right way. So disqualifies and do not buys. You can figure this out, obviously, in the type form that I mentioned. Disqualifies. So every people who is not fit for the offer and do not said no to invest are all funneled into a remarketing and nurture sequence for these people who might be potential leads for the future, right? You never want to cut these off. Now, these are people that you paid for with your advertisements, so make the most of them, because if we can funnel all of these into email campaigns, SMS campaigns, retargeting ads, right? Bottom of funnel, then obviously these are leaks that you can now take back to the top of your funnel and bring them down into potential buyers. Now, the percentage of this will be lower, but if you want to make money, then you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of people who will be potential buyers in the future, right? So let's go into, once that is all figured out, the nurture process. We can see nurture process is based on value-based emails, nailing pain points, and leveraging case studies. So you want to make sure that your testimonials are set up, your offer is dialed in so that they know what value they're going to get out of it, and they know what pain points they are supposed to be selling. Now, if I was in sales, I would tell you that people who are avoiding pain are a lot better to convert than people who are reaching for goals. So nailing the pain points is specifically important here, and sending them these value-based emails. So things such as lead magnets, like crash course videos, quizzes to see if, like, hey, what do they need to see in terms of their current situation, in terms of optimizing it and leading them to the next process of their journey. So lead magnets are very important. These are some of the ones that I built out for my clients, and going into the CTA, making sure that this is now optimized accordingly. So if we can see here, just based on what you should see on a CTA basis, CTA, you should see a 20 to 35% ideally conversion rate from contact info collection, right? And healthy funnel looks like this. And making sure that your main VSLs are converting at least 40 to 60% of these into whatever you need to do in terms of email collection, phone number collection, anything in terms of the info for a prospect, right? Now, going into what a CTA looks like in terms of what they do next, right? They book a call, obviously, and they go down the pre-nurture flow. Now, when these calls are booked onto your calendar, you want to make sure that this is optimized. So how do you optimize for a efficient calendar? When you have setters and closers, you want to make sure that you figure out which one is performing at the best, right? Taking a look at their close rate, their show rates, and everything in between that. So making sure that you're tracking data accordingly so that you know, okay, this closer is highly efficient, so we're going to pack his calendar first. Then we're going to pack this calendar next. But making sure that the bookings are never 2 days more than advanced, right? The 2 day window is optimally placed, because anywhere after 2 days, show up rate drops off significantly. So let's say they book in on this Tuesday, right? They'll have this calendar window open for Tuesday, Wednesday, and the part of Thursday. And going into this, you want to make sure that either they're double booked, right? They're booked maybe an hour in advance. So let's say your sales calls, which you're tracking, obviously, goes into maybe like an hour sometimes. You want to make sure that each one is specifically 45 minutes then to optimize on the closer's time. So packing it back to back, hour long calls, 45-minute calls back to back. And if you need to, you can follow up, everything like that. But this is what an optimized calendar looks like according to your team and who is operating at the most ideal level. So once you go into that, they book onto the calendar. You want to obviously make sure that your pre-call flow is dialed in. Now, the nurture process is very important to increase the show up rate, right? Anybody who's left off and basically ignored from the time that they book onto the show time, you're going to experience like 30% to lower show up rates, and that is not efficient. You're wasting a lot of money there, and I see so many people do it. That's why I emphasize a pre-call nurture flow is very, very vital to see show up rates on the ends of 80% to above, which is always possible for every offer. I don't care if you're a dating offer, if you're a tech mentorship offer, if you're a business offer, they should always be on the higher end of 75%, right? If you have a pre-call flow. So let me show you just an overview of this, what this should actually look like. Generalized, it's a pre-call notifications, right? Your team is updated on Slack or any other software that you use. These closers then should be assigned to speed to lead dial these prospects immediately within a 5-minute window. This way, you can get the lead talking, committed, and they can hear a voice automatically and assign that voice to, okay, all right, well, I have a call on Wednesday then. Got to make sure that that's in the back of my mind. I've had somebody to talk to. I know what to expect, and I'm all good to go, right? So, speed to lead, hey, just saw that you booked on my calendar. Super excited to talk to you. Did you receive this type of material? And do you have any questions before our call to make it as productive as possible? Something like that, right? Something simple. But after that, they get automated pre-call text messages. So making sure that they're not just engaged in a voice sense, but they're also engaged through SMS, right? Continuing that conversation. Something as long as like you're saying, hey, tell me a little bit about your story, like what brought you here, right? From there, the conversation just flow, whatever makes sense. It doesn't have to be specific. And I've seen people hire just dedicated nurture specialists, just VAs who are only specifically assigned to do this task alone, engaging in conversations before a call, because this already increases the show up rate by 30 to 40%. So this should already increase your close or show up rate by 2 to 3 times, and this should already increase it by, I'd say 2x to 3x. And if you're seeing this, if you're seeing a 20% close rate, right, this should be hopping into now at least 50%, right? And now with these automated text messages, anywhere from 75%, right? I wouldn't say 75%, maybe like 60 to 75. And then you go into the pre-call prep, which is making sure that they're sent all of those pre-nurture sequences, the value-based emails, hitting on pain points to take it to that 75% plus, right? That is vital all the way up to a sales call. So those are the SOPs overview. We can dive into it a little bit more into what happens if they show up versus don't show up. And this is the pre or the no-show process, making sure that that is dialed in. So if they don't show up, they are at least assigned back into the call book, right? This is closer to the bottom of the funnel. So if you see a leak in the no-shows, then making sure that the people who didn't show up are, self-explanatory, assigned back to the top of the funnel, or actually assigned right here where they can book back onto your calendar, and then the sales call can proceed from there. So that's what it looks like. If they show up, right, are they closed? If yes, then the close is won. If they're not showed up, then you want to make sure that you follow up, right? If you follow up with them and you know that it's not the right time, right, then you want to segment. You want to segment these people. The segmented people should be taken back all the way into your nurture process. I know there's a lot of arrows. Apologies for the messiness, but I hope you get the point that these segmented leads right here are put into the nurture process. So obviously they go back into the funnel, right? You're optimized, you're efficient, you're making the most of these people, as well as you're operating from a sense of like, okay, is everything set in so that I have as little leaks as possible? Because the more leaks I have, the more cash I'm leaking as well. So that's what it looks like. I hope you have derived some value from the sales process. And I think everybody, if not, should focus on okay, step A is my main VSL dialed in. Am I funneling them correctly into an application which collects their info and information correctly so that I can nurture them the proper way, right? Everybody needs nurtured differently, right? If they're on the lower end, if they're in the earlier sales cycle, then those people need more nurturing, more lead magnets, more nailing pain points, future pacing, right? All of this can be done, all of this can be identified and nurtured properly to get into a CTA at the right time, in the right place, so that your calls are booked on the calendar efficiently, right? And you're following a no-show process or a pre-call process. These show up. If not, you have a process for this. If they're not closed, you have a process for this. If they go through the whole pipeline just in one fell swoop, then you know that you did a good job. But obviously, you're not always going to do this, right? Optimally, you can see anywhere from like a 50 to 65% close rate, which is optimal, right? For people, if you have this nailed in, if your show up rates or your close rates are hovering anywhere from like 20 to like 30%, then you obviously need to focus on these small blocks here and making sure those are dialed in before you move on to the next. So that's it for the sales pipeline. We can go into efficiently, like, if you're in the beginner stages and you don't know how to actually set these CRMs up, if you don't know how to set these things up properly, then this is my software stack. These are the things I need to use to make sure that everything is running at the top pace, right? Your engine is oiled up, it's ready to go, the fuel's in the fire. You're using Insta automations like ManyChat, you're using Twitter auto DMs and content scheduling like Hype Fury, landing pages and funnel buildings. Those are built out with like things like ClickFunnels, Systems.io, Go High Level, and forms and surveys. Like I mentioned, that application form, it's Typeform. That's the one I'd recommend. And there's another one called Score App, which you can use, which is also really good. And things like email marketing, right? What does this look like? ConvertKit, Active Campaign. All of these have monthly like kind of subscriptions, but if you're thinking about it, if you want to make the most money as possible, all of this comes out to anywhere from 330 to like 400 per month. So it's not as much compared to how much you could be making in the six-figure range per month. So making sure that you have a lean tech stack, it's enough to run a 100K plus month coaching and consulting offer with just a small team. So most of these tools pay for themselves within the first 1 to 2 closes. Make sure that you have these all set up, right? Close.io and Go High Level. These CRMs are optimized and you have automations such as Zapier and Make.io. This takes a lot of time to set up. Sometimes I would hire somebody. I can do these things alone, but learning this stuff alone, one puzzle piece that you're missing, one mistake that you make during the whole process can set you back many hours, maybe even days to figure out. So make sure that you're actually not spending too much time on the setup of these things. And once these are ready to go, you're able to operate at this high level. So that's what it looks like for the tech stack. Now, how can we go into what the healthy funnel looks like? And I know we already took a look at this previously, but what should the optimal numbers when you're actually implementing these? What should that look like? What should that look like? So, in terms of traffic, 2 to 5% CTR from cold traffic. From this traffic, you should take a look at anywhere from 15 to 25%. That's usually a good range for offer owners. The ones that are operating at like $1 million a month are seeing these type of numbers. So this is what a healthy funnel looks like: 15 to 25%. Two main VSL and landing pages. 35 to 55% to lead magnets and applications, right? From main VSLs and lead magnets, you should see a 40 to 60% in terms of email collection conversions. From there, taking a look at after the nurture process, if you do this correctly, right, you're seeing a 20 to 35% in CTA. These numbers are optimal. These are what the top companies are looking like. And as you can see from a funnel perspective, it goes down each time, right? 25% here, 35% here, 65% close rate here. The whole goal of this is to see that, hey, if previously you're taking a look at, let's say, 1,000 leads from traffic that you're funneling in to the top and you're leaking these few things, you're leaking, right? At the bottom, then you're left with five, right? Which is it's I can see it. For a lot of people, this is how they're operating. But how can we take that based on everything I've showed so far? How can we convert that all the way to something like 30, right? And from there, you're already seeing a 6x return from not even spending any more on ads. You're still dealing with the same 1,000 leads that you're facing from the top of the funnel, but you're plugging these leaks off, you're cutting them off or minimizing them as much as possible to see these leads go down the funnel, more of them, to 6x your return on ad spend. The ROAS should go anywhere from like say 2x to you can see anywhere upwards of, let's see, a 6x return on the ROAS. So whatever that looks like, you know that you're optimizing at a high percentage and your CTAs to book calls should be at a 25 to 40%. Your show up rate should be looking at a 65 to 90%. Obviously, nobody can get to 100% close rate at a high level, but from there, if these don't show up, at least are you converting 20 to 30% of these no shows back into the funnel where they're booking a call, right? These are going down into if they're closed. Close rate should be 25 to 35% upwards. I've seen 65 to like anywhere up to 80% some months, which is crazy, but this is all very doable if you have all these previous things dialed in. So, going from there, what is your follow-up process like if they don't show up, right? Or no, if they don't close, are these people converting at a 10 to 20%? Should be optimal. This should be a good amount of leads. You're like converting an extra like 2 to 3 leads a month, right? Which is always good. So that is dialed in. This is what a healthy funnel looks like. And those are the numbers that you should be aiming for, right? And at the end of this video, my goal is to see at least one of these numbers, two, three, four of these numbers met. And these are obviously approached one at a time, but once you do, 6x return, 3x return on ROAS, or 3 times return on ROAS, and we can go from there. So all of this to say, I want to make sure that you're identifying which process that you're in terms of your business, right? Let's say you're at stage 1. You're feeling chaos, you're feeling doubt, you're feeling anxiety. These are usually starters, and I don't usually work with these type of people, but I want to make sure that I can also help them out with this type of video. So for my one-on-one clients, we're taking a look at anywhere from like stage 2 to stage 3. But if you're in here, you're making sure you're probably feeling a lot of these things and you're facing a lot of these things like no pipeline, no cold outreach, and everything like this. It's in complete chaos, it's complete shambles, and that's why you're at 0 to 5K and you're still hovering unpredictably around that range. So I want to make sure that everybody who is seeing this should be at least in this range. Frustrated, overwhelmed, if you're feeling like this, you're probably in the freelancer stage, right? You're still in the one-man band army where you have to take care of so many different things at once. I can close, but is it predictable, right? Your working hours are 60 plus a week just to keep up with things, and you're still facing few clients, you're still doing it all, your team is unreliable, right? Then you might have a few people who you can rely on, but for the most part, you want to make sure that the quality of your team directly correlates to the quality of results that you're facing. So making sure that your team is all good. There's nobody unreliable in that system. and you're not facing inconsistent calendar health, right? You might be facing no CRM or pipeline metrics. You're not tracking correctly. What you need then is calendar health. You need CRM, you need sales process and systematization so that, everything I covered in the past, if you're facing these things, make sure that you're following along carefully because I'll be covering every single one of these and how you can fix it to move on to freelancer to operator. Now, what does this look like? Stage three, if you're doing anywhere from 30 to 80K per month, which is probably a lot of people who are watching this video up to this point, is they're facing this still clarity, but there's still pressure to scale. There's still uncertainty there. You're facing varied months, and I've seen this a lot. My first client who I've worked with was facing in this range of 50 to like sometimes they would hit 100K, but they were still anywhere from like 30 sometimes to like 60. And this is not a place where you want to be operating at. You're still trading your time for money. You're still, your dreams of becoming that business owner who is traveling the world, having that financial freedom and not working too much, but also working when you do, it's still passionate, right? You're still having the energy to focus on the things that you really want to be focusing on. So the operator stage is where I see a lot of people who are facing these issues are still having troubles with no sales teams that are actually performing at a higher level. So they're underperforming. They don't have any true sales managers. So nobody who's actually leading their team properly and trading the the people who are not good to hiring people who are actually A-level players. So the CRM is not optimized here. The data is still messy. The cash collection is slow, right? Your revenue might be like, I don't know, 130K plus, but you're still facing like a 50K cash collected per month, right? And you want to make sure that your cash collection is optimized. So, how do you do that actually, right? We'll go into like the cash collection process, how to optimize this to get this to like 75% of your revenue basis, right? So, how we can go into that, what we'll install is actually a sales ops dashboard, a calendar diagnostics where we will fix also no-show rates, and CRM optimization with pre-call workflows where you're optimizing and nurturing these people consistently. You're going through the cycle. You're making sure that this machine is operating on all cylinders and your sales team and KPI tracking is optimized as well plus your coaching as well. So this is where your founder can exit the sales team and the team can take over and you don't have to actually spend your precious time and resources on something that you're not actually really passionate about. I doubt that a lot of people watching these videos care too much about the discovery process and making sure that hey, these metrics are all in place on the sales side, right? You want to be focusing on the impact that you drive. So the impact that you create here versus what you create here is drastically different. This is where you're a true business owner. This is where you're facing 100K months plus, and this is cash collected, right? I want to make sure this is clarified. We don't count revenue here. Emotional state, you're at peace of mind and you're at confidence because you can know predictably and consistently you can hit these cash collected months. And just from a day that you're not working, let's say you want to take a week off, you're still confident that your team can generate this, right? Your machine is still operating when you take a step back. And these are how true business owners operate. They don't operate inside the business, they operate on the business. So you know that the revenue is driving consistently, it's tracked. Your sales team is performing without you. And outcomes that you now have are revenue predictability, high converting pipelines, right? Low no show rates. And your sales team is tracked, coached, and closing at its highest level, right? You want to make sure that you have somebody you can rely on, a sales manager, a team leader, that you know that, okay, if I don't, be on their ass about this, that I know and I can trust somebody to be on their ass about this because your sales are very important. It's the heart of your business. It's what drives the blood, right? So CRM, your cashier, is fast, it's organized, and it's seamless. The founder is free. You are free. Your time goes back to building a brand, a product, and scaling ads, and your profit goes up and the chaos goes down in turn. So this is the goal here. Profit goes up, chaos goes down. You're going from anywhere from stage 2 to 3 to consistently at stage 4 and onward. Now you got to be careful, and I'm talking to you who is in stage 2 to stage 3. If you're stuck in this for too long, then your team becomes burnt out, right? Burnout becomes the bottleneck. Quality team members leave, right? Those one to few people that you have, they see the issues in your system and they see that you're not competent enough to drive toward their vision. So they don't see a vision and they don't see a clear path to future success in your company. So revenue plateaus and drops are what dictates people who are leaving, right? They don't see the consistency, they don't see the certainty in the outcome, and you question whether you're built for this. And let me tell you, business is a game of figuring out the doubts. Your mindset, your beliefs dictate what you achieve. And I really like to dive into this a lot because if you're a business owner, your vision is one thing, but how you operate on a day-to-day basis, who you're being in the moment, and what you do dictates exactly what you have. So be the person that you need to be. Do the things that you need to do. And then in turn, you will have things that you want to have. So make sure that you're not staying stuck in this process too long. I've seen a lot of people burn out in this stage, and that's why I usually like to help out with this is in terms of working with you one on one. My agency specializes in moving you forward from stage 2 to stage 4 by fixing these three main issues, right? The core levers are revenue predictability, your sales team performance, and your freedom that you see, the freedom that you get, right? What do you even want out of this in the first place? And can we fix it? Well, we fixed it with the many other companies that I've worked with them in the past. The company that I've helped from in just a span of 2 to 3 months scale from that beginner stage of stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 4. Right? They're now at above 130K per month. And I did this by making sure that their calendars are fixed, their show up rates are fixed, their KPI and dashboards are all dialed in, their CRM is optimized, organized, and automated, and their hiring, training, and managing sales teams are all firing on the highest caliber that it could be firing on. So, optimizing the speed to cash collection is something that results in making sure that all of these are fixed. And what I do is just a funnel hack in the first week, taking a look at everything, a high level overview. What do you do? Okay. Who wrote the sales letter? I got to crack down on that. Who wrote this? Because it's not operating, it's leaking a lot of leads. Who is actually in charge of making sure that the nurture process is carried out correctly, whether it be the setters, whether it be the closers? Who's overseeing this? Do you have a manager? Right? If you don't have a manager, then how do you know that all of these are going to be consistently executed? So making sure that I can manage the team, I can hire the right people, I can optimize your systems so that you can optimize for the cash collected. You can achieve these business owner benefits, and going from there, you can see exactly a high overview of what systems need to be in place, what leaks need to be plugged, and from there, how to drive that revenue up. And I know I've been repeating that a lot, but I think that's the whole reason you're watching this. And the whole reason for this video that I've made, I've spent hours on this, is because I want to make sure that you're seeing the results that you want to see. Because I've seen this so many times. I've seen it in my own business. I've seen it in my friends' businesses. And going into this, it's pretty tough. So, what are some quick wins you can get? Let's dive into quickly from everything I mentioned, what are some key things that you can take out of this where right away you can see the biggest return for the smallest amount of effort that you can achieve? So, first, let's see. Let's assume, you're a client doing $50,000 a month. You have something like a tech startup with the sales boot camp, right? Tech sales boot camp. They sell anywhere from $4,000 course and they have a downsell of 1,000. Okay. This is average on average what you see. Course community, everything like that. That's kind of like the holy trinity. If you want to make sure that your offer is optimized, you want to have that coaching in place, you want to have that community in place, and you want to make sure that everything else you want to have course, community, and then that guidance, that one-on-one, right? Course, this stands for coaches. I said coach in the beginning, but this is course, community, and you want to make sure that your guidance is all dialed in. So those one-on-ones, right? That's kind of like the holy trinity I see. A lot of times people are operating at this. If you're not, then let's fix this before we talk, right? So going into this, you have a team of 2 closers, 1 setter, and an email list of 25,000 subscribers. Not bad, right? Typically what we see, but obviously most CRMs are not structured and they're lacking high converting leads and magnets that are not actually optimizing these leads efficiently, right? So what are some quick wins you can get? This is the exact process that I've used to scale my clients right off the first month. And first off, is making sure that you monetize efficiently and effectively, right? So we launch our coaching layer at 6 to 8K. This is a simple add-on, right? So you can keep your 4K and your 1K downsell, but make sure that you have course access plus this weekly live coaching. A lot of communities and coaches don't have any sort of one-on-one, which is basically a higher level of guidance than what you're currently offering. And this instantly boosts the lifetime value and it attracts premium buyers who want to buy that hands-on support. So this alone, implementing the monetization where you're adding on this additional layer of coaching can add 50K. I already wrote it. I don't know what I wrote it again, but 50K in new revenue for your clients in 60 days. So this is what I saw in my company. This is why I actually recommend it the most, and I've seen it help out a lot of people. And number two, what you can actually dive into is building those real sales assets. Like I said, the pre-nurture sequence is vital. So what sales assets are you actually using? So first step, we'll gather all your scattered social proof, right? Screenshots of client wins, transformation stories, case studies, testimonials, you name it, and extracting these insights from their course to extract high value lead magnets. High value lead magnets. What does this do? This makes sure that your product is felt by the right people who will pay for it, right? And they're opting in with a phone number and email, making sure that this is more top mid-level funnel stuff, but this attracts the lead quality that you're aiming for here, right? So first impressions matter a lot. If you want to attract high quality leads, you want to make sure that you have a premium lead magnet that positions yourself as a premium brand. First impressions matter a lot. So make sure that you dial in your lead magnets and sales assets. Your VSLs are good. They're communicating the right value, hitting the pain points, and showing them exactly what they can get with working with you. So after doing this and optimizing it efficiently, that's why I said this is one of the first things I take a look at, is because this alone can 3x increase your qualified leads entering the pipeline. And obviously, this this flushes a lot quicker. These are people who are rarely leaving the pipeline. They're going down straight down to paying you, sending you the Stripe link, or you sending them the Stripe link and getting that payment, getting them on board, and the lead quality matters here. So let's make sure we're optimizing on that. That's number two of quick wins that you can get. Now, what are step three in terms of the operating systems and the things that you can implement quickly to see the biggest return? So I like to tackle this in stages. Make sure that you're doing one first, then two, then three. But once you've done one and two, you can then set up an operating system such as an optimized CRM. So before you have no CRM or you have a CRM, but it's not tracking and it's not following up, it's not automating the right things that you should be doing. So I implement a proper CRM pipeline. Every new opt-in is pinged for the setters in 24 hours to 48 hours, and a simple pre-nurture engagement such as, hey, what do you think of the resources convo? What brought you here? What's your story? Qualifying them and booking the calls from there. So this process alone, making sure that your system and your CRM is all optimized and your flows are all good. They're doing the right things and they're not driving people away. This process alone increased calls booked by 18 to where you want it, which is 65% in the funnel that I showed you, right? So if you're facing an 18% booking rate, 65% just by implementing this stuff alone. And once you've done all three of those stages, then we can kind of go into re-engaging your existing list. So remember, you have a $25,000 or 25,000 number of leads who are once dead. Now you're flooding them back into the funnel. You're making the ones that can buy again. Now they're flooded in and they're converting an extra 50K to your revenue. So that's the goal here. That's the high level of quick wins you can get. Please implement this because it's what I used specifically and it's what I've used and I've tested many different times to see what actually moves the needle in a quick time span. So if you don't have these in place, one or two, make sure that you implement them. And I hope to see a quick increase in your revenue, in your cash collected, in the way that you're getting results, the results that you're seeing for yourself. So those are some quick wins I want to share with you. Um, my role here is simple, right? I diagnose these problems, right? It's what I'm good at. I worked as a systems engineering student and I found many different cogs that are clogged in the system and making sure that you implement these quick wins to drive immediate revenue, right? These then build long-term systems that compound. And once the foundation is set, we test, we optimize, and we scale the entire funnel. So why does this actually matter to you? Obviously, you're stuck in a spinning wheel with weak conversions. It's not the offer, right? Most of the time I see value people who care about the people that they help. They're passionate, they have expertise, and they can really help the people that they target. But they lack real sales systems, right? This process is repeatable. And when you do it the right way, revenue becomes predictable and you're not operating from a hope market. All right, so next thing, once we really go into the quick wins now, what does this actually take a look at in terms of, hey, once you've implemented those, if you're taking a look at more in-depth process operations for sales, then how can I help you guys out in terms of figuring out the lead automation process? So, for one, every lead should be treated differently. This is the benefits of actually having an organized CRM because then you can really categorize into, hey, are they an opt-in? Are they a new application? Are they a call booked or maybe they're on the cancellation flow or no-show flow? So let's make sure that, okay, for opt-ins, these are a little bit colder, right? They're not application leads. So once we do that, they go into the opt-in from the landing page. We tag them in the CRM that they're an opt-in, and we add them to the opt-in nurture flow. Now this nurture flow should be heavily more heavy than a new application because they're really getting into the weeds of things. They're a little bit early on in the sales process. They haven't seen as much as an application would. So you're going to want to hit them with more via VSLs, lead magnets, sales assets, everything to nurture them into if there are existing in the CRM, then let's update the CRM and notify the Slack team. If they aren't, then let's create the lead and notify the Slack team that they're coming in, right? Every new update for people who are coming in, the Slack team for the sales should be notified so that they can either speed to lead or prepare properly for who they're going to talk to. So, same thing with the application. These people are going to be submitting the application tagged in that CRM and processed into a CRM where are they in the CRM? If yes, then log them as an application lead and notify the sales team. Same thing on the opposite side, which is if they aren't existing, right? So once we really get into that, if they are a call booked, these are people who show incentive. They are booked onto calendar after the CTA. We tag them into the active campaign, lead existing in the CRM, right? If yes, update accordingly, and from there. So all three of these flows should be set up on a CRM. This is an example such as a GHL workflow where you actually build out this system, this kind of web where it shows, hey, what opt-in are they from? Depending on that, you tag them, assign the user, email them, you wait a second, and then you SMS them. So you don't want to send them out at the same time. You want to have a little bit of a buffer zone. That way they're not too overwhelmed and they don't feel spammed, right? You don't want to get to the point where any lead feels spammed, but at the same time, you don't want to find a process where they're under nurtured or under engaged. So finding that middle point is very important. Now, having the workflow for each is going to be looking different. For this is the new application, they're going to be going through a little bit more, right? Just because they are applied, we have more data on them, so we know which flow to actually accordingly put them into. Same thing with a call booked. This will be taking a little bit different than an application or an opt-in. Once you go into that, those are leads coming in. Now, leads that are already in the sales pipeline, what do they look like if they cancel, right? If they cancel a call, right, either they reschedule, did they reschedule? If they did, you need to let the CRM know, you need to let the sales team know on Slack. And if they aren't, then you update the CRM, you notify the Slack team, and you make sure that you're nurturing them accordingly to make sure that they're gone back into the pipeline, right? So everything in terms of that should be all set up. No-show flow should be set up as well. Or if they are a no-show, hit them with the sequence of emails, SMS. You gotta give them a day before just flooding them with stuff. And if they rebooked within that time frame, then okay, go through the pre-call flow, right? Just as the top funnel that we showed. If not, then just hit them with more retargeting with emails and SMS to really let them know that, hey, didn't see that you showed up. Let's why is that reason? If it is a logistical reason, let's find a way around that. See if we can reschedule what time works best for you. If it's even a month down the line, then okay, it's better than nothing, right? Follow-up flows, let's say they go through, they didn't close, then you want to update the CRM, you email them, you SMS, you nurture them properly for the follow-ups, and if they rebook, then let's update the CRM, make sure they go through the pre-call flow, at least a little bit of it, to make sure that they're updated, especially if it's been a long time window. And if not, then we just give them more nurture sequences, right? So more SMS, more emails. That's what it looks like for email automations that are specified for each type of lead. Now, what does the sales team actually need to do in this process? So we want to make sure that the sales team is nailed down. I'll be getting into that in more depth about the quality of your team, what that should be looking like. But let's say you already have a dialed in team. What should the pre-call SOPs look like, the post-call SOPs, everything in between, the admin work that they should be doing to fulfill on all their KPIs. So we already went through the pre-call flows. We won't go into that again. But the post-call flows. So post-call SOPs. Make sure that closers are taking notes on calls and we can sync this data back to marketing. So we can figure out and update the VSLs, content, anything marketing side of things. And you can also update the CRM for them as well during this process. So things like the post-call form. This should be taken right after a sales call and it collects vital information such as the lead's problems, their impact, their vision, obstacles that they ran into, general notes that they have, and also the time of the call. You want to figure out this time of call so that you can optimize your calendar based on the average time that it takes per call for each closer. So taking a look at these key statistics, um, once this is filled out by the closer or the setter, this automatically populates the Slack summary. Slack summary should automatically populate the data tracker. If not, you can do this manually as well. And you want to make sure that you have a solid system of tracking data. Like I mentioned, if we don't know what data to derive from this, then we don't know what key numbers to pull and what levers to pull as well. So let's take a look at the data tracker that I've used for my teams. This has done us a lot of good in the past here. So let's just take a look at what this will look like in a month of January, right? So ideally you'll have this for each one of your closers and you'll have a combined one for your team that you'll be overlooking. So key indicators such as calls on the calendar, right? How many are they facing each day? Sales calls taken, total sales, sales call show up rate, and total closing rate. There's also many other vital important information that will be helpful. But let me show you exactly how we calculate these things and set KPIs according to your monthly goals. So let's say you have 3 closers on your team, right? Each closer, they're aiming at a commission goal at around 10K, let's say average, right? We can enter into the calculator 10K, okay, if each closer wants 10K, and the average cash collected, you're doing a, let's say 15K deal, and your average is, 7.5, 7,500 for each average cash collected per close. Commission, you can operate at a 10%, let's say, and then this will automatically populate how much cash collected is needed per month and how many sales calls are needed per month or sales closes needed, right? And this will be broken down into weeks so that the closer can know exactly, hey, am I hitting my KPIs per day, per week, so that you can then fill out OKRs, which are also very important for the team to know their goals and standards for each week going into it. So, with that, as on the marketing side, as a business owner, you need to know how much you should be populating them with based on your current show up rate. Like I mentioned, we want to be at a 65%. If you're not there, then implement the things that I told you before. Just implementing those things alone should increase it to 65% at least. Now, what is your current close rate? Let's say you're operating at industry standards. You don't have the best sales team, but they're average, right? 25% show up rate should be something that you like standard. Anything below that, they're underperforming. So with that information, what are you taking a look at? For sales calls taken that are needed for your current close rate, then you need 53 needed to be taken. Live calls. This means 53 live calls per month. Make sure that this is happening for your team. If not, then you're not going to be operating at the highest level to hit that 100K cash collected per closer, right? If you can do this 3 times over, then you're at 300K cash collected per month. So 53 needed on the calendar with the current show rate, right? 65% show up. That means you need 82 at least to be on the calendar in order to have 53 live calls. So these numbers are important. The data tracker automatically populates at the top for the targets for each week. Week 1, okay, we know cash collected needed is 25,000. We need 3 cold closes here. We need 13 live calls, and we need at least 21 calls on my calendar. So filling this out, this can automatically populate using Zapier, but you want to make sure that you have these key statistics, right? Triaging, how many people are you passing through, right? How many are qualified? Based on that, what's your sit rate? What's your slot capacity? Out of 40 slots per week, remember, you want to be around at least 50%. If you're operating anything below this, then you're behind. Communicate to the marketing team, hey, we need more leads. Communicating to the outbound team, at least populating the calendar more with more leads. So having these things are in place for the closer, right? How many of these are one call closes, follow-up calls, um, cash collected rate, average contract value, average collected sale. We won't go into the too much, but there's also ones for setting if you need to know that. But also, this is very helpful that I've seen once I implemented this for our closers, we can see what they're facing on a call, right? On the coaching calls that I hop onto them with. Hey, what's the one thing that you're facing the most? Okay, you're seeing a lot of logistical money problems. How can we um, have a little strategy around financing to have the highest cash collected or make it make sense for them logistically for them to come through, right? Logistical partner, fear money, fear partner, all of that good stuff, right? And how many are overcome? Out of the things that you faced, how many have you actually been able to overcome? So this all at the end, it populates on a pie chart, everything. I'll show you just a quick example of one of the closers that did. This is what it should look like all filled out, right? You can see all of the statistics. At the end of the month, you should be able to see what you're taking a look at, objections faced, sales type distributions, right? How many are coming from one call closes, upsells, 2 call closes, or follow-up closes. So that's what the data tracker should be looking like. This is very important. Have a system behind this. Once you have it, go from there. Should automatically populate and update the CRM to adjust accordingly. So that's for the post call SOPs, end of days. We'll be getting into here. You want to make sure that end of day you schedule a refresh and you Slack message to make sure that closers are on top of it. I mean, if they're not already on top of it without a reminder, then you probably need a new sales team, right? But EOD forms, setters, closers, make sure they're filling this out. You can get the close rate. You can see at the pipeline updated just from this alone. So post call, Slack summary, data tracking sheet, all that good stuff. Let's go into the finance flow real quick for closers, where they will be taking payments and maximizing on the cash collected as much as possible. So this is the system that I implemented. Once a closer goes through a close, then you got to make sure, okay, based on logistical, are they in the financial ability to do a PIF, right? Paid in full, or can they do a split pay? Obviously, these are ideal, but also another very valid pathway is financing. You want to make sure that you have very solid financing options. I'll tell you a few. Take notes on these ones. Credible, Climb, Affirm, Klarna, Amex as well. These are all financing options to get the most cash collected upfront, and this splits up the payments for anywhere from like 200 to like 600 per month for the prospect. So it makes sense for them, makes sense for you because you're catching a loan from them and they're paying it off over a monthly time basis. So it's very affordable, right? Once you go into that, obviously you need to make sure you know the credit score, apply using those funding partners that I mentioned, and accept. Make sure that you take a deposit in most cases because remember, if they're receiving a loan, it takes maybe 3 to 5 business days depending on the partner to receive those funds. So you don't want to make sure they're just getting the funds and running away with it. They're committed and they're ready to go. So that's the pathway for financing. If you're going the PIF route where you're just sending them a Stripe link, then send the Stripe, send the Whoop. Make sure the payments once it's populated as a new payment, Slack message, tracking sheet, and something like a payment bot should pop up in the Slack message to update the whole team of what this looks like. So making sure that you're having up-to-date reminders, notifications on that. Also, if it's a failed payment, you want to make sure that you know that the team knows it as well. So max Slack message, tracking sheet, and the bot notifies you guys. So if the payment is a failed payment, then you want to go through a recovery flow. This is what one of this my clients look like. So email them, wait, email them again, email, SMS, call them as well to follow up. Make sure that they're on the same page, right? Are they failing the payment because of logistical reasons, like they didn't know it was failed, or did they let some other personal reasons get in the way? So you want to identify that, follow up, because these are people you already closed. These are people that you can get cash back very quickly. So make sure that that is in place. Disputes and refunds, these are self-explanatory, but you want to prepare for these worst case scenario. If they happen, then make sure that you have this in place because if you don't, then that's an issue, right? But anyway, that's the overview of what it looks like for automated flows in the sales operations. I broke down very in depth about what each lead should be automated according to their sales cycle process, the SOPs for the sales teams, right? The data tracking, the payment processes, and all of that good stuff. So once we have that covered here, I think this is a good place to start the going into the hiring and managing how to operate on a quality team because the quality of expectations and outcomes that you have are directly correlated to the people that you have, the culture that you have, and the training and managing style that you're operating at. So I'll be teaching you exactly how to create an A-level team that generates you cash and slings cash towards you so that you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to micromanage everything that they do. And you're maximizing on the closes and the leads that are coming in. So once I did this for one of my clients, came in, I saw exactly what they were doing for about a week. I was just really monitoring what they were doing, seeing what problems they were doing, reinforcing what they were doing, and seeing if they need to clean wipe some closers. So for this case, they were operating about a two-man band, wasn't really reliable, at pretty average, but I knew, okay, based on my connections, this is the team that you should be operating at. Okay, so I hooked them up fresh, swiped up the closing team, wiped out the setting team. They weren't operating at the standards that I had, so I operated on a basically clean sheet, brought in new closers, brought in new setters, and set up a culture that would set up long term for you, a talent team that would be able to stay there long term so you're not consistently refreshing on closers, hiring, because that process is a long process. It's a skill that needs to be built too. So if you don't have the skill of interviewing and hiring, then you might not be that might be something that holds you back. So we'll go into that in training as well. Once the team is in place, how do you maximize on them? How do you have them continuously improve and collect more month by month? So your growth ceiling is your people. You don't grow a business, you grow people and they grow the business, like I said. So the culture is who you hire and who you hire. The behaviors you reinforce, behaviors you tend to start, stop, and keep. So this is taught by Hermosi. This is important to keep a culture. And the people that you hire is the ability to execute on the plans that come down to the quality of people that you have in your business. Training them now is the potential versus the actual that they have. So raw talent versus potential talent. The hiring, the higher up in positions that you hire for, the more you should be hiring based on actual rather than potential. And this comes down to observing the details. So first, let's get into culture. A lot of companies that I've come into, they have a culture and it's laid out, but they're not very clear on it. Culture is not a pizza party. It's what you tolerate and it's what you reward. So if you have something that looks like this, it's very average, right? They show, hey, our culture is based on accountability, communication, innovation, respect, leadership, integrity. Okay, cool. I'm glad that these are in place, but what do they actually mean? Make sure that you're articulating it so it's clear and the team knows exactly what you expect from each pillar here. Communication. What should this be broken down into? Weekly calls, one-on-ones, constant Slack messages from this time to this time. Nail down exactly in bullet points what this entails. Innovation, right? Okay, innovate. You want me to go off on my own and see what I can do on a sales call, experiment to see, or maybe you don't want that to happen. Maybe you want a strict schedule based on your offer. So have that clear. Innovation is good though, right? Closers feel like they're part of something bigger. They feel like they're having an impact. They feel like they're continuously growing. If you don't have innovation in place the right way, then closers are gonna slowly fizzle off. They're gonna slowly burn out and find that this work is just work, right? It's not like they're operating at a business owner. So accountability is a big one too, right? What does accountability actually mean? Right? What does respect actually mean? What does leadership entail? And what does integrity actually mean? So, once you have these in place and the clarity is there, then what are some cultural level levers to pull? Cultural levers are who you hire versus who you fire. Behavior modeling from leadership and reinforcing systems such as public dashboards, clear KPIs, and feedback loops so that closers know exactly based on statistics what they are expected to do. So it's not a surprise if you come to them and be like, "Hey, you haven't been hitting KPIs, and if you don't continue to hit these KPIs going forward, then we're gonna have an issue. We might have to split paths, right? So have these clear before you go to a closer and be like, hey man, you're just not up to standard. I mean, what does that mean, right? Standards are KPIs, dashboards. Are you hitting these numbers? What behaviors are you actually exemplifying? So start, stop, keep. You want to continuously review this and show it to your closers. If you don't have a leader to do this, then you're not operating at the highest level that you could be. You're operating at a much lower level. You're not setting the standards that your sales team could be actually at. So, sales leadership systems start with KPI reviews, feedback on calls, right? run daily check-ins to make sure they're okay mentally, mindset-wise, energy-wise. Closing is a very energy-based game. What energy are they transferring to the prospect? What energy do they have in themselves? Are they doing certain things outside of work hours where it's maximizing on the person that they could be so that they could lead a prospect to your program? So these are all important. Conduct weekly and monthly reviews, right? Bigger KPIs, bigger goals, company vision, things like that. And fire or course correct based on the data that you see. So those are some few things that we can get into culture, but make sure that this is in place so that, like I said, the standards are set. So once you have the culture in place, let's see who we hire, right? Like I said, I've clean wiped companies before and I've started from a clean slate to build. Sometimes you got to wipe out the loose blocks to build a sturdy foundation and then move forward from there. So when do you actually need to hire? Once you have a product market fit. Now, if you're anywhere from that 10 to 30K to 50K range, then you want to make sure that your offer is all set first before you actually start closing. If you're an offer owner, you probably will be closing as a one-man team from that 0 to 30K mark, right? From there, as long as you have a product market fit and repeatable sales based on your performance alone as a business owner, then you want to start hiring from there. You don't want to do it to fix broken systems, but to scale working ones. So make sure that you have a working system before you move forward. Where to hire these people once you're ready, right? Referrals, friends, family, clients, anyone from your network that you trust and you know has potential and actual skills. So the talent pool, that's what I just mentioned too. Online communities, places like Upwork, Facebook, school groups you're in, and in-house clients and alumni. I've done this before. They actually have a lot of conviction, a lot of fulfillment because they have been fulfilled on your program and they know what each prospect looks like. They've been in the seat before. So having these people is a good consideration as well. But there's more to this. Network is limited depending on the people that you know. You want to build this over time. But if you don't have this, then have somebody to at least come up with the network for you and interview them for you so that these people are actually triaged so that I can actually take a look and these are people that aren't wasting my time. All right. So, where to hire these people? So, how to actually attract A-level players. Once you spot them, how do you actually get them into your company and get the feet running, right? So, before like discussing any comp, you need to sell the vision to attract these A-level players. As much as they're trying to sell you to get a position, you're trying to sell them that this is the right place to accomplish their goals and do what they're actually set to do, right? So you want to use multi-step hiring funnels. Sometimes if you have a lot of applicants that you're looking at, you want to do applications or test tasks or gauntlet interviews where you're hiring a group of many. And then out of those 10 people in the group interview, you want to just nail it down to like 30 to 50%, right? And then hold those one-on-ones for each one from there. And you want to look for outcome driven people, not activity focused. So taking a look at their traits, right? Making sure that they have grit, coachability, ownership, and emotional intelligence. That is a big one, right? But as long as they have these few things and you can tell that based on a coaching call, bring them onto the interview and ask them more questions around this to figure out if this is actually the right fit for them. As long as you're interviewing, you're consistently selling them as well on your vision and what they can accomplish. So you want to find these closers that are obsessed with closing and they're booking quality calls, right? These are setters mainly, but closing, besides that, are they doing follow-ups? Are they obsessed with growth in their skill? Are they hungry, right? Active. Some closers that you hire on, they'll just scroll on their phone, do whatever, if there's a no-show, right? We want to find people who are hungry and actually chasing those leads, following up with them if they haven't closed, and booking them back on the calendar to have another closing call. We want these closers to be hungry, grit focused, coachable, and have emotional intelligence and ownership, right? Red flags that you want to avoid. Princess closers, blame heavy language, lack of drive, work ethic, inability to follow instructions. You can tell these just by their mannerisms, the way they speak. This should be pretty self-explanatory, but these are some of the traits that are vital for a strong A-level closer. So, hiring frameworks, once you actually get them on, now the ramp period should take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks for a setter, and closers should be 4 to 8 weeks, right? Onboarding, you want to move fast, obviously, maybe like a week max for onboarding, but within a period, you don't want to be hiring them or firing them quickly unless something immense happens, right? Give them a period of 4 to 8 weeks to prove themselves, process, have clear KPIs, and track them weekly. If they're on the earlier process, you want to be tracking them daily, monitoring their process, how they approach things on a day-to-day basis. Coach them once with expectations. So expectations are big. Make sure that you're clear on these. Like I said, evaluate based on consistent underperformance, not isolated mistakes. So taking a look at it over a longer basis, right? If they're beginning on your offer, obviously they're going to make mistakes. You don't want to fire them right off the bat based on those things. A-level players, most of the time, they operate on a little bit longer time frame, right? You can tell their skill right off the bat, but you want to nurture them just like you would for a lead to make sure that, hey, if this is a person that can really succeed, then don't let them off the hook too fast. So green levels, make sure that they're in either the yellow or the red, right? 3+ deals a week. Yellow, 1 to 2 deals a week. These are like KPIs, right? If they're in red, one or fewer, then you want to let them know, hey, you're in the red zone. If you continue this, then we're gonna have to split paths here. So those are the zones you want to kind of be operating in. Comp and incentives. Obviously, you want to have this attractive for the closer, but not having it too much for it doesn't make sense for you in terms of profit. So base plus commissions. Sometimes I'll do this, but mainly commissions is just the main thing, right? 10 to 14%, anywhere in that range based on their performance, how much cash they're collecting, and tiered performance bonuses, right? If it's a PIF, give them a bonus, maybe $100 to $200. Incentivizes cash collected. So behavior based on bonuses as well, right? Are they doing things not just outside of closes, but based on performance? You need to reinforce these things. If you're an average manager, then you reward them based on the outcomes, right? So hey, if you closed, good job. If you don't close, then hey, we need improvement, stuff like that. That's average. You want to also reinforce behaviors as well. If they're following up, if they're keeping their stuff organized, their CRM organized, if they're reviewing their calls, if they're continuously showing signs of improvement, then just continuously reinforce that as well, right? That's based on culture as well. So team overrides for leadership. Make sure that there are certain people who are aiming for that leadership position, right? And you have overrides for that once they do hit that mark. Non-monetary recognition, shout outs, leaderboards, advancements, equity or rev share to key performers when it comes time. So that's optional. You want to incentivize that, but obviously if you have a key performer who's operating at a 60% or above close rate, then you don't want to make sure that they're treated just like an average closer, right? Or else they might leave for another competitor. Make sure that they feel like they're an owner in the company, that their impact is going towards something. If that happens, then you can even shoot their close rate and initiative to even more, right? They're driving revenue, and that means that they're also driving more revenue for themselves as well. So those comp and incentives, that's how to nurture higher talent. Now, once they're on training, how should you train them properly? Training isn't onboarding, it's the daily sharpening of execution through feedback loops and frameworks. So making sure that you have all these docs ready. So call reviews, 2 to 3 per week, right? One-on-ones as well, live or loom breakdowns. Make sure that you have this. Shadow the top reps. Make sure that you identify the reps and create swipe files of wins, call banks. Make sure that the people onboarding are watching these calls or shadowing him to make sure that they learn the process of how to actually be a top performer, right? Skill sets. Just discovery, pre-frame and pitch, objection handling, closing, upsell. These are just average stuff, but make sure that you're dedicating at least one meeting, right? to just honing in on this one skill alone. You don't want to spread too thin. Focus each week, each call on one section of the call to improve one by one, at least 1%. Right? Have these training assets and banks on file so that they can access. Team feedback loops, best calls library, loom breakdowns, SOPs, objection vault, and live role plays as well. So all of this is to train a rep, make sure that they're on top of their game consistently. Now, once you have the hiring and managing process down in place, now how do we scale this from here? Right, and I broke it down into 4 stages. Now identify which one you're in and take the necessary procedures from there, but we'll start from 1. Let's say you're at stage 1 at 0 to 1 closers, which is anywhere from 0 to like 30K per month, like I mentioned. The goal here is to prove that you can sell besides that someone can sell besides the founder, right? The timeline is 0 to 30 days within this. Hiring trigger is making sure that you're at least doing 20 to 30K per month in revenue. Calendar is like 70% full. Milestones for the first rep is onboarded by the 2 to 3 days, and 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 calls per day as well, on top of like that onboarding procedure of 2 to 3 days. So make sure that one deal is closed within 2 weeks. If one deal is not closed, then you're probably wasting your time, their potential, and their actual skill is not there. The daily Slack check ins are in place, and you have 3 weekly call reviews, right? So make sure this is in place if you're in stage 1. Involvement is most of the time you're 90% there, you're training, you're call reviewing, you're doing manual follow ups. There's more involvement here than in the later stages. But once you're ready and you're at stage 2, let's see, you have a mini sales team and now you're testing for consistency. So the timeline is 0 between 1 to 3 months within this. Hiring trigger is making sure that you have a proven lead source and your first rep is hitting at least 3 deals a week. So the revenue here is anywhere from 40K per month, and the milestones should be reps are staggering in onboarding. So don't hire 3 all at once, but making sure that you're doing one, 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 right? Stagger this process. And once this team is in place, you're doing weekly team sales meetings and you're introducing the scorecard and you're creating a comp plan that will actually be manageable in the long term for a team of 3 to 5, which we will be building. Right? Involvement here is a little bit less, but still 70%. You're delegating a little bit more, but you're still managing, you're still training. If you have somebody to manage and train for you, that would be ideal so that you can focus a lot of your efforts on creating content, building out your brand, uh, doing the fulfillment, all the other good stuff rather than actually micromanaging your team, right? So I usually do this. I hop into offers. That's what I did. Hired the team, managed them, make sure they were on top of things, and then progressing through each stage comfortably and predictably. So once you're at stage 2, you have all of that in place. Stage 3 would be 3 reps to a sales lead as well. You install a manager to own training and KPIs and performance. 2 to 4 months for this time period, and reps are at full ramp, at least 2 reps here. Revenue is at 60K plus, and the founder, you, are spending a little bit more than 10 hours a week on sales training, or less than that. Less than that. So milestones that you should be hitting here is making sure that you have an internal A player that you're promoting and hiring external leads as well, right? Sales leads begin running reviews, dashboards, L10 meetings, and the rep retention here should be below 60 days. So involvement 40% because you have somebody to lead the charge. You're having all of these in place, more systems, more strategic oversight, and not daily micromanaging. So that's the goal here. And once you're at that stage, you're ready to move on to stage 4. This is where you truly remove yourself as a founder and you're fully automating as a sales system, a sales machine. And this takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months in when I work with you. Hiring trigger is like 80 to 100K per month revenue when you should be hiring now. So hiring more, you have a manager in place, and you're firing the people on the team that might be underperforming to the standard that you want to be at, right? as you increase your sales team, you're also increasing your quality by each rep. Each rep should be better and better and better, right? And also that means if the reps that are currently on the team are not, stepping up to that level, then they should be dropped off eventually. So that should be in place. Milestones for here should be sales lead is promotes from within. Founder only joins for high leverage moments like strategic meetings, new offer details, everything like that. And weekly metrics are delivered via Slack message, right? So involvement here, very little, 10 to 20%. It's just final oversights and not actual operations. So that's the roadmap for a sales team and how to scale it properly. So you're not doing everything at once. You're not crumbling from just the growing pains of everything. You're predictably scaling this and everything like that. So there are certain wins. There are certain scaling stages that you want to be going through, making sure that you have all of the quick wins in place before you continuously bring on A-level players and making sure that you have SOPs in place too. This is just one example of an SOP that I have for one of my teams, and this is a team no-show SOP. Obviously, I have a lot more, but this is just an example of the standard that you should be setting for your sales team. So now, everything that I've gone through, this alone should tell you exactly what you're missing and exactly how to implement it the right way. Now, operating and carrying this out is overwhelming in itself. So if you need somebody to come on, I'm happy to take a look at your company, see if it would make sense to work one on one. I only operate with specific companies, so we'd have to, do probably like a two process of taking a look at what you're doing, issue process what's going on, see if it would make sense to work together and go from there. But I think alone, just from this video, if you can implement this in some sort of way, then that's my goal accomplished here. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments section and I will be happy to answer those for you. But besides that, I think my job here is done. I will have everything connected in the bio, everything that you need to know, timestamps, stuff like that. But make sure if you watch to the end of this video, I thank you very much because I put a lot of time and effort into this. I had a lot of fun also explaining this, also just gathering all of my information that I've collected over the past year to showcase how you can really scale your business to six figures, seven figures, and then beyond that as well. So if you think it makes sense to work with each other as well, let me know. Contact me. I'll drop my contacts in the bio and we'll go from there. But thank you very much. And I'll kind of put the next video in this right here you can watch. It'll be going over sales managing, how to actually do that, breaking down the statistics. But if you derive value, like, subscribe if you want, and I'll catch you in the next one.